Welcome to Mr. Sleepy. Relax. Take a deep breath. And let's drift into tonight's story. The Firefly and the Wise Old Frog. The forest lay dark and quiet, covered in mist, with the soft tapping of rain on the leaves. Lumi, a little firefly, floated slowly through the cool night. His tiny light only a faint glow, like a little ember that was struggling to stay lit. Once, he had been the brightest firefly of all, leading his friends in happy dances that lit up the whole forest. But now, he felt small and unsure, his glow just a shadow of what it used to be. Lumi's wings grew tired, and he found a big leaf to rest under. Cold drops of water slid from the tip of the leaf down his back, making him shiver. The air smelled of wet earth mixed with a faint sweetness from nearby wildflowers. As he sat there, wondering why his light was fading, a deep, kind voice rose above the sound of the rain. "Why so sad on a night when the rain sings?" asked Bartholomew, the old frog. Bartholomew was wise and loved to tell stories. His green skin shone under the raindrops, and his big eyes glowed warmly like the hidden moon. Lumi looked up and sighed. "I don't know, Bartholomew," he said softly. "My light, it's fading, and I don't know why. I try so hard to make it shine like it used to, but the more I try, the weaker it gets." Bartholomew shifted on his mossy seat, stretching his legs with a soft creak. "Ah, little one," he said kindly, "your light isn't fading because it's gone. It fades because you've forgotten something important. Come close and listen, and I'll tell you about the fireflies of the gilded glen. Their light never dimmed, not even when storms shook the trees, or when the night was darkest." The old frog let out a contented sigh and stretched his webbed toes, shifting to get comfortable. "Telling stories takes a bit of effort these days," he chuckled, his deep eyes twinkling warmly. "These old bones of mine are not what they once were. Even the rain can't wash away these creaks and aches." With a nod, he invited Lumi to listen closely. "But some stories, little one, need to be told, even if they take a bit more effort." Lumi managed a small smile, his dim glow warming slightly as he nestled in, letting the soft sound of the rain and Bartholomew's voice soothe his worried heart. Bartholomew closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering the story from some faraway memory. Lumi whispered, "I remember when the night felt full of wonder. Now it feels like I'm searching for something lost, a spark that's disappeared." His gaze drifted to the raindrops pooling near his tiny feet, feeling as if the rain mirrored his own feelings. The old frog's gaze softened, his eyes filled with understanding. "Ah, little one," he murmured. "That feeling visits all of us at some time or another. The world grows heavy, and the light within us dims. But the secret is remembering why it shone in the first place." Bartholomew began his story, his voice deep and steady. But just then, the rain grew louder, drumming on the leaves and almost drowning out his words. The drops made a rhythm, like tiny drums in the night. Lumi felt a flicker of frustration as he tried to hear Bartholomew's voice through the noise. "Patience, little one," Bartholomew said, noticing Lumi's flickering frustration. "The first lesson is to listen, even when the rain is loud and life is noisy." The rain seemed to play its own tune, tapping loudly around Lumi, with cold drops splashing him now and then. But Lumi took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and focused hard on listening. Slowly, the noisy beat of the rain softened, blending together with Bartholomew's gentle voice. Around them, the forest grew calm, as if it, too, wanted to hear the story. "Long ago," Bartholomew continued, his voice rich and warm, "there was a place called the Gilded Glen. The fireflies there shone as bright as the stars themselves. But it wasn't magic that made them glow. It was the joy they shared with each other. Each night, they gathered beneath the silver leaves of the lumina trees, telling stories, laughing together, and dancing until the first light of dawn." A faint warmth stirred in Lumi's chest as he pictured the glen. The shimmering leaves, the glowing fireflies, their happy voices filling the night with cheer. Bartholomew's voice grew softer, his words drawing Lumi closer. Yet there was one firefly named Solace. One day, his glow began to fade. He searched far and wide, through the tallest flowers, the clearest streams, hoping to find a way to make his light bright again. But the harder he searched, the dimmer he became. Lumi's tiny antennas drooped as the story felt close to his own experience. The struggle felt painfully familiar. Bartholomew chuckled, his laughter as soft as distant thunder. "You know," he said, "I once tried to catch a firefly's glow, thinking I could keep it in a jar and light up my nights. But fireflies are quick, especially when an old frog like me tries to catch them." The lines around his eyes crinkled with amusement, and Lumi's light flickered a bit brighter as he couldn't help but smile. With a gentle, knowing smile, Bartholomew continued. When Solace finally returned to the glen, weary and dim, his friends gathered around him. They didn't ask where he'd been or why he looked so tired. Instead, they shared their stories with him, sang the songs they knew, and remembered all the nights spent together. Solace laughed for the first time in ages, and with that laughter, his glow returned, brighter than ever before. Lumi sat in silence, listening as the rain softened to a quiet patter around them. Bartholomew's words felt like a warmth reaching into his heart, melting away the cold weight that had been there. "I've been trying so hard to find my light," Lumi said softly, "that I forgot why I had it in the first place." Bartholomew nodded, his gaze filled with understanding. "Sometimes, little one, the light we search for is already inside us. It shines brightest when shared with others, when we find joy in simple moments. Even the rain, noisy and bothersome though it may be, can become part of the song if we listen closely." Lumi looked up at the leaves above, watching the raindrops catch small bits of light as they fell. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt at peace. "Will you tell me more stories?" Lumi asked, his voice soft, filled with hope. Bartholomew's eyes sparkled, and he let out a happy croak. "Oh, I have tales enough to fill the whole forest, little one. But for now, let us simply listen to the rain and be here in this moment." They sat together, side by side, as the quiet night wrapped around them. Lumi's light glowed just a little bit brighter as he listened to the soft rain, the gentle rustle of leaves and the steady sound of Bartholomew's breath. The forest seemed to sigh with them, wrapped in the peaceful song of the night. A tiny flicker of light warmed within Lumi, steady and calm. Perhaps, just perhaps, his light was not something to chase, but something to remember. The rain continued its soft song, and the night felt endless and safe. Bartholomew watched the little firefly with a knowing smile. After a pause, he leaned forward, his voice soft and steady through the rhythm of the rain. "Let me tell you more about the fireflies of the Gilded Glen," he said. "They found that their lights shone brightest when shared. They would dance in the rain, not because they had to, but because they wanted to." He continued, his eyes glinting as distant lightning flickered. Their glow was not a show of strength, but of joy, of shared laughter that even the strongest storms couldn't take away. Lumi's heart ached as he remembered warm nights filled with games, stories, and the simple happiness of being with friends. He thought of when he led the dance under the moon, his light once so bright, it seemed the stars winked back at him. But as the rain softened around him, doubts crept into his heart, cool and quiet, like shadows in the forest. "What if my glow is gone for good?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Bartholomew leaned closer, his deep croak soft like silk. "Even the dimmest spark can light the way if it's cared for." His wise, kind eyes held the wisdom of many seasons. Lumi took a step out from under the leaf, feeling the cool rain prickle his wings. The raindrops were cold, sending shivers through him. He looked up at the rainy sky and closed his eyes, trying to remember the warmth he once felt deep inside. But doubt clung to him like morning dew, cold, heavy, and stubborn. It's like trying to remember how to smile on a day that's been all rain, Lumi murmured. You know you used to, but the memory feels so far away. His words drifted into the night, carrying the weight of his worry. Bartholomew's soft croak rumbled gently. You search for light, as if it's something you need to find, but it's something to feel. Step into the rain not as someone looking for something, but as one who belongs. His voice matched the rain's gentle beat, turning it into a song of its own. The rain seemed to soften, its tapping becoming a gentle, musical sound. Lumi's wings twitched with uncertainty at first, but then he lifted one tiny leg, then another, moving into the rain. Cool drops rolled down his back, catching little hints of light. Taking a deep breath, Lumi closed his eyes, and instead of searching, he began to feel. A small shiver turned into a warm flutter, and Lumi began to move. He twirled slowly, then spun a little faster, as memories of laughter and games with his friends came back to him. He thought of their playful chases, the way they'd giggle as the breeze teased them. A quiet laugh escaped him. It feels like trying to dance at a party after a long day, he thought. You remember how, but you're afraid everyone's watching you stumble. He wobbled a bit, slipping in the rain, and his cheeks warmed with embarrassment. A passing beetle stopped, blinked at Lumi, and buzzed softly, "You all right there?" before scurrying away. Lumi chuckled, shaking his head. Even beetles have their opinions, he muttered. Bartholomew watched with a patient smile. Keep going, he encouraged gently. It's not about how you begin, but what you find as you move. The rain became a comforting presence, cool and refreshing, as Lumi's movements grew steadier. He twirled and looped, his wings catching the raindrops and turning them into tiny sparkles of light. With every turn, the weight of his doubts faded, replaced by warmth that started in his heart and spread outward. It wasn't just the memory of joy. It was joy itself, alive and dancing within him. As Lumi danced, something magical happened. His faint glow, once a timid spark, grew brighter. It shone steadily, soft at first, then with a warm light that made the rain shimmer. The raindrops around him sparkled like tiny diamonds, capturing and reflecting his newfound glow. Lumi opened his eyes in wonder. The forest around him seemed to hold its breath, with leaves glistening and puddles mirroring his light. I'm glowing, Lumi whispered. a mix of surprise and wonder in his voice. He turned to Bartholomew, who nodded with a knowing look. "You see, little one," Bartholomew said, his voice deep and calm. "The brightest glow doesn't come from struggling. It comes from remembering why you shine." Lumi hovered, eyes wide, as the forest responded to his light. The trees swayed gently, their leaves whispering stories of their own, while the rain wrapped around him like an old friend, each drop holding a piece of his glow. With a nod of thanks to Bartholomew, Lumi soared higher, letting the wind lift him. He spun in the air, his light creating a golden trail through the dark forest. As he flew, he saw other tiny lights flickering awake. Fireflies that had been quiet began to glow. One by one, they joined Lumi, their lights joining in a dance that lit up the stormy night. The dark woods brightened as more fireflies joined, some blinking shyly like stars just waking up. But as they saw Lumi's steady glow, they grew bolder. Soon, the whole forest was alive with light and movement. The trees seemed to stand taller, their leaves rustling in soft applause. The rain, now a light mist, sparkled as it fell through the glow of 100 tiny lights. Bartholomew watched from his mossy seat, a warm smile on his face. Stretching his legs, he settled back, the soft rain falling over him like a gentle blanket. His eyes closed, and he breathed in the calm air of the forest, knowing that the night had found its song again. As dawn peeked over the horizon, the rain eased, turning into a soft, silvery mist. The first rays of sunlight touched the raindrops, turning them into a sparkling carpet across the forest floor. Lumi hovered, feeling the warmth of the sun meet the warmth inside him. Looking around at his friends, their lights twinkling in a farewell dance to the storm, he whispered, "I thought I'd lost my light, but it was here all along." Bartholomew's sleepy voice drifted up from below. "Yes, little one, and it will always be there, as long as you remember why it shines." Lumi's glow grew brighter at the words. He understood now that his light wasn't just for guiding or showing strength. It was for sharing, for laughing, for dancing, even in the hardest storms. With a last grateful look at Bartholomew, Lumi turned to the sky, leading the other fireflies in a final joyful dance before they drifted apart, each carrying a piece of that shared light. The forest bathed in morning light, and the soft glow of fireflies hummed with peace. Bartholomew let out one last happy croak as he settled into a deep sleep, his tale now a gentle memory in the heart of a little firefly. And as Lumi floated down to rest, the soft rustling of leaves and the morning breeze wrapped around him, promising nights yet to come, filled with stories, laughter, and light. rain had passed, but its song lingered. A memory to remind Lumi that even in the darkest moments, light could always be found, especially when it was shared.